We're on, so
This is a new song we've been working on called Love and Hope.
very pretty. I was going to share it, but then it was too late. So we'll have to watch you at some other point in this conversation. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Monday morning. And I have Alyse Korn with me today as a guest. And we did not plan the spring colors, but they're quite popping, aren't they? I feel like daffodils. So, Alyse, I know through Rob Kyle, and your partners in life and partners in music. You've been together a while, right?
We have.
Yeah. How did you guys meet?
Yeah. Before I begin on that story, I just wanted to say hello to everyone that's out there watching. And I wanted to thank Cathy for inviting me to be here this morning. It's really wonderful to be here. So thank you, Cathy.
You're welcome. You'll have to forgive my casualness, but this is just so much like a conversation. I just pop in and out of things.
Got
So
it.
you don't have to start with how you met. I was curious because it kind of fell out.
Yeah, I'm happy to tell that story. It's a lovely story. Um, we had originally been at California Brazil camp, which is Brazilian music, dance, language, everything Brazilian, up at in Casadero. It's Bay Area, North Bay Area, by the Russian River Valley.
Hmm.
2 week camp in just immersion in Brazilian music and dance. And so we knew of each other. I even think we were Facebook friends.
Huh.
Um, And then a few years later, we met on a gig. So I was playing piano with a Peruvian singer who sings a Brazilian repertoire, Alyse,
Uh-huh.
and we were playing over at Picanha in Burbank.
Oh,
I was
okay.
playing trio, and I had noticed that Rob Kyle was doing her arrangements. Because in her book, his name was on those arrangements. And one Saturday night, she says, "Oh, Rob Kyle's, he's going to stop by and sit in." So we were in the middle of the set. He walks in, just slips in on a tenor and starts playing, and boom, we're making music, and it was beautiful. Just really felt that connection.
Yeah.
And then later we were hanging out with the band, and I said, "Yeah, I've got some friends of a Cuban band over at the Cuban restaurant around the corner who would like to go." And Rob said, "I'll go." So we kind of discovered we had that not only love of, American jazz, Brazilian, with Afro-Cuban. So
Yeah.
then, I introduced him, he ended up sitting in, and all was well, and just kind of took off from there.
Oh, cool. That was the place in kind of Glendale area, right? The Cuban place.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a good room for a long time. Yeah. Um, yeah. Well, so it sounds like your love for Brazilian music is a long time love. When did you start being aware of Brazilian music?
I was aware, well, my dad was a huge jazz aficionado.
Oh,
So growing up, we were listening to jazz, but I'm from Miami, born and raised in Miami. So I was aware of, Cuban music,
yeah,
Puerto Rican music, Brazilian. There's a lot of, it's multicultural, similar to LA.
yeah.
And then again at University of Miami, and one of my jazz professors, the piano, Vince Maggio,
Uh-huh.
brought in the Jobim, those arrangements, the Klaus Ogerman. And so then I fell in love again,
Yeah.
and with more maturity, listening and having a greater understanding of.
Yeah. Were you were a piano player then? And I mean, have you been a singer all the time as well, or just mostly?
Oh, that's a good question. That goes again back to early childhood. So again, it was a musical family. My mother's mother, who I spent a lot of time with, was trained in opera
Hmm.
and was always singing to me. We were singing. She was also a highly trained classical pianist, as was my father's mother.
Huh.
And so I was hearing the piano, seeing them play, and then singing, and I love to dance. So it was all part of that.
Oh,
And then singing, sure, in elementary school choir. I accompanied because kept,
you could play.
I studied formally piano.
Yeah.
So kind of that connection. Yet I really wanted to be a jazz piano player. So the voice was something that, when I play with bands, oh, can you sing backup? Can you sing some harmonies? And piano was always the focus. So my degrees are in jazz piano performance.
Cool. Very cool. I have a friend here, Taylor Hatch, who's a guitarist. He's studying at uh, North Texas. And first of all, he says he's sure you would love the sounds of the UNT Latin Jazz Lab band. And he said he's assuming when you were at CalArts, you spent a lot of time with Dave Reutzstein.
Yes. And there's a story there.
There's a story there?
Sure. So thank you to, what's his name? Dave, you said?
Taylor.
Taylor.
Yeah.
Thank you, Taylor. Right. So CalArts, the reason I landed at CalArts, so I had finished my bachelor's. I was looking for a master's program, and I thought, oh, maybe I'll go to Eastman or Berkeley, or stay on the East Coast. I had never heard of CalArts, and I was simultaneously studying classical with Dr. Rosalina Saxteen. She said, "Oh, you're interested in master's program. my son-in-law is the department chair at CalArts.
Oh,
Let me set up a meeting. So I met him when he was down around New Year's in Miami. And he said, sure, why don't you fly out? I'm interested in your original compositions. And so I, brought a cassette tape of my original compositions and had my audition. And I think we went out for some Thai food, just, getting to know each other. And so they chose me for a teacher assistantship there.
oh.
And then, wow, I was packing the van and moved myself out to Southern California. And that winter, I remember, yeah, it was similar to this winter. There was a lot of snow, a lot of rain. And I was just so taken by the seasons, Miami, Floridian, experiencing the seasons. So very excited. And then landing at CalArts it was the perfect timing. Miami was so structured. Yeah, we had Brazilian and the salsa, the Latin, but it was heavily bebop oriented and highly competitive. And I just looked to write and get back to my roots of why I fell in love with music in the first place. And I found that at CalArts.
Hmm.
So David was extremely nurturing, extremely kind. And of course, he had also studied with his mother-in-law. So I got all that, the technique. And then African music and dance is required.
Oh.
So again, just right up my alley. I get to sing, get to dance, get to play drums, really immerse myself in the roots of jazz. And then, of course, there's the whole world music program. So I was like that, the kid in the candy store.
Oh, that's great. God, it sounds like a great match.
So I hope that answers his question.
I'm sure it does and beyond. Yeah. Let's see, what else does he ask? Um, Hi, Frederica. Taylor said, when you were a student, either at Miami or CalArts, excuse me, what kinds of fundamentals were you exercising the most until you felt like you had a great grasp of it? Do you recall?
Fundamentals. That's a great question. So I landed at University of Miami early. I graduated high school a year early, and I hadn't had a formal jazz teacher. I'm going to step back a minute. I'm going to answer that question. I like to tell stories.
Okay.
So I landed in my high school jazz band in ninth grade, observing a woman who was a senior playing, and then she let me sit in. So that's how I started. And very quickly, one of the trumpet players, senior in high school, had a jazz band that was working professionally around Hollywood, Florida. And he invited me because I was a very strong reader. So I was reading big band charts. And that was my in ensemble playing. And very quickly, the community colleges invited me. Broward Community, Dade Community. We need piano players. So strong reader, right? Yeah. But improvisation, I had heard since a child, Monk and Armstrong and all these great players improvising. And I like to think I'm creative, but being put on the spot and so I remember asking before Miami, so I'm going to answer this question, I'd get in touch with piano players that I could find in the area, how do I decipher these chord changes so I could create something? And it was a lot of theory. Getting my eyes kind of glazed over. And I always did my best when they say take a solo. I listened to recordings and try to figure it out. So I land in Miami and I finally make it into the jazz department. And Professor Maggio doesn't realize that I don't know how to play a 2-5-1, like basic stuff. And so it was really tough. That's another story. And so then I started studying just with like the TAs and stuff and just going back to basics. This is 251,
Yeah.
different versions, um, voice leading, right? Voice leading basics, a lot of scales. I was in Whit Seidner's improv class. And so he'd have us copy out changes and think about, Dorian, Mixolydian, Ionic. So starting to learn all the jazz theory and the lingo. Before that, it was all about just listening, reading big band charts, picking, trying to find my way.
Yeah.
So I got much more focused. And then I was studying classical as well, Rosalina, Dr. Floyd. And so I was really working on the independence of my fingers. My technique, I wanted to say, can I say sucked? Yeah, it was horrible. So I was just like really pressing and a lot of tension. And part of it was just the fear of, yikes, I have to improvise or I have to play, I have to, tempos. And so I believe I landed in something that was, where I was here and then the expectation was way up here.
Yeah.
And it was like this really the struggle, and then my mind as well getting in the way because I really didn't find a lot of support. So, but I hope I answered that question. Is there something even more specific you'd like to me to
No,
get?
that's fine. Taylor has great questions, so he's going to continue asking some cool questions along the way. Yeah, but that's interesting, we all have our struggles, right? No matter where we start, you know. So there's something that goes, whoop, I don't know this, and I have to get this part together, right?
Right.
So,
There was this moment at University of Miami. It's like a mysterious moment when I was walking out of the concert jazz band room, and Duffy Jackson, do you know who Duffy Jackson
yeah, yeah.
was walking towards me? There was no one around, and he actually came up to me. I didn't know him. He came up to me and he handed me a cassette tape and he said, Alyse, I want you to listen to this tape. And I just want you to sing with it. I said, okay. Thank you, Duffy. Thank you so much. He just smiled and he went on his way. And then I realized, later, I realized this is how Duffy plays. He's playing, but he's hearing the melody, right, as he's playing. So that was his message. It's like, if you can remember the melody as you're playing and then you're improvising, just keep referring back to the melody.
I've
That's
heard that before, actually, from players, which surprised me. I remember the first time I heard it, it was like, oh, great guitar player. And he said, when I improvise, I hear the melody. And I would have never really thought he did, particularly because he was, just a great player and didn't really refer to the melody in an obvious way. But I think that's kind of a great tether, right?
absolutely.
Yeah.
And to remember that there are people looking out for you, even if
Uh-huh.
you don't think they are. There
Yeah.
are those little angels here and there that.
That's sweet. I don't know if you know this person, Rocio Alonso.
Hi, Rocio. Thanks for coming.
um, let's see. So, also, Taylor's curious if you have any standards that you like to go back for inspiration and that have possibly influenced your composing.
Oh, good question. Standards. That's a very good question. So I do play standards, and I most often play standards with Robert. So as a tenor player, he loves to play standards. He studies with Greg Fishman sometimes, and they're always playing standards in all keys. So I think that's a great exercise. So Rob will say, I'm working on, whatever, Stella or something, and he'll bring it, and then I'll make it the focus. Okay, we're going to play in all keys. And it's so interesting how we improvise perhaps differently
Yeah.
in other keys, and I find where I'm struggling.
Yeah.
There have been long stretches of time when I've been focusing on, other repertoire, like, for example, high school big band music. And so I wasn't as often playing standards. I was playing the standards of the big band repertoire.
Yeah.
And then University of Miami days, yeah, heavily standards and ensemble playing. Then to CalArts, not really standards, because we were writing music, we were playing music of other cultures,
Right.
not as many standards. And then working professionally, when I'm playing with Teca, so I play with Teca, a world-class singer, Brazilian singer and guitar player. So we're playing the standards of Brazil.
Yeah.
Repertoire, right?
Yeah.
There were many years I was playing just with a lot of salsa bands, so I was heavily focusing on the repertoire, the Latin American salsa, right, repertoire, and learning all about that. So I'd say when it comes to standards, what I'm doing is typically working with Rob and picking a standard and taking it through the keys and taking it apart that way.
Do you find large differences of standards, American standards, as opposed to Brazilian standards or salsa standards? Or is there a similarity of form or something? Just curious about that.
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, I think depending if it's Brazilian jazz, we'll find similar form
Yeah.
to American standards. I say when we're getting into the salsa realm, there's standard forms where you repeat and stay within sections, which to me reminds me more of traditional African, where you play a section, for an hour, and then get the signal with the drummer, and then you move on. So
yeah,
different type of form. Harmonic wise, yeah, I'd say Brazilian jazz will find that similarity harmonically with American jazz, 2-5-1s.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes I think the Brazilian music is, I don't know, it's otherworldly. It's not, you don't really find that in the Great American Songbook. You find beauty in the Great American Songbook, but the Brazilian stuff is really, I don't know how it got figured out, but it's so astoundingly gorgeous. The shifts of connected keys and ideas. It's really beautiful. It kind of reminds me of the lyrics too, which you probably speak Portuguese too, right? Oh.
I do not. I practice, but I'm not going to pretend.
Well, to me, it's my own personal joke. It's like the lyrics are always inclusive of the depths of love and the heights of love in one song,
Yes.
and so I feel like the music has that too. It reflects that this movement of like there's a next movement that brings you up and out, or I don't know. I think it's an amazing music. I really do.
I agree with you, Cathy. When we were talking earlier about California Brazil Camp, and I think one of the greatest Brazilian living composers, his name is Ginga.
Yeah.
Uh, offers classes there, and really the classes are like this: is just hang with Ginga time. Surprisingly enough, he does play American standards beautifully. He loves to sing and to really rich voicings, and so I believe that his writing is both from he's mixing the the songbook with the harmonies and melodic ideas with the Brazilian repertoire. And I am again not an expert on Ginga's music, but have done enough hangs with him just to be really impressed by his knowledge.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear Javon in a few weeks. I think he's another brilliant writer. And actually, I heard Nascimento last year. And of course, Milton Nascimento, he's like God. He's pretty amazing. And he was still, I mean, he had a group of young players with him that were carrying it a lot. Great singer, incredible singer. But he carried his own as well, and it was. I mean, there's nothing like his voice. It's so distinctive and beautiful, you know. There used to be this show on called um, what was it called? Sunday Night or something. It was Dave Sanborn had it on. This was many years ago, but you can find it on YouTube. It was kind of an unplugged thing, on TV, but a very casual stage with brilliant musicians. And the first, the first one, my husband and I sat weeping because it was Nascimento and James Taylor.
Mm.
Oh my God. And they did their separate thing and then they sang together and stuff. It was crazy. It was
I'd
totally
love to,
crazy.
I'd love to hear that.
Yeah, you can find it on, on YouTube. Taylor, this is a new question. I haven't seen you write this before. If you could have any type of dream gig, what would it be and why?
A dream gig. Well, I've had some dream gigs. I think there are these different elements. So I think, like, recently, a dream gig was our CD album release party. So with Rob, Kyle,
Uh-huh.
was playing tenor, flute, and soprano, playing some of my original compositions, which are on the album,
Hmm.
his original compositions. And we presented it up at the Beatrice Woods Center.
Is that
Beatrice
around where you live?
in Ojai. So Beatrice Woods, she lived to about 104 or 5. There's a documentary on her. She's the mama of Dada, and her home and her pottery studio is up in Upper Ojai, California.
Uh-huh.
And they have a beautiful studio space, performance space, holds about 60 people, and the piano there is an exquisite Yamaha Grand
Mm.
that was donated by a classical pianist
Mm.
who passed, with just exquisite tone and touch. I'm in love with that piano. And just the team that runs the performance space, they gave all the support in the world and handled all of the wine and the hors d'oeuvres. It was just lovely. And then the surrounding, in the springtime, Ojai is just incredible. So it's Upper Ojai with sprawling ranches, and the mustard is in bloom, so all on fire with the yellow. And my dream band, yeah, it was Kevin Winard on drums and percussion, and Ahmet Turkmenoglu on bass. So really, that was a dream. It was,
That's nice. That's really nice.
I hope for more of that.
Yeah, I know, right? That's great. I love Ahmed. I play with him often. Mary Alice Pierce Coleman is here. She said
Hi, Mary.
to hear about your background and experience.
Our friends from Portland.
Um, so you mentioned that you have an Irish band. I was curious about that.
Oh, the Irish band, yes. So when I was younger, I studied violin, but I was very interested in old time, bluegrass. I love the swing. I love the melodies. So fast forward to 2008, I was eating in Santa Clarita at the Egg Plantation, which is a 101 omelets breakfast lunch place in Santa Clarita, run by a British guy from Nottingham. And I overhear him saying, yeah, we're going to have our first annual St. Patty's Day celebration. And I turn around and say, are you gonna have live music? He says, I haven't thought about that. And I said, oh, we can do it. Sure, we can do it. Like, so I called the best Bowron player, which is the Irish drum, and bones player in LA. That's Brad Dutz, who now lives up in Washington.
Yeah,
Uh,
he's pretty special.
Very incredible player. So it's Brad Dutz, and there's a woman that I went to school with at CalArts, who Lisa Bosman is a great fiddler and fine classical violinist. And then I'd been accompanying at the Unitarian Church in Santa Clarita for a few years. And just so happens that our musical director plays the penny whistles, flute, bass, guitar. He plays everything. And he had a band back in Boston during his Berkeley days
Oh,
playing the Irish music. So he said, yeah, I can do that. So we get the band together, we rehearse, we put together our repertoire, and we've had our first successful patties. And since 2008, except for the 2 years of lockdown, we've been playing that gig.
oh.
And then we've, gotten other gigs.
Cool.
So
Interesting.
it's more of a seasonal thing, but
Yeah.
we like to transcribe. Scott has some original Irish pieces he's written. We also like to transcribe, like we've transcribed contemporary band called Bioga. There's Bioga. There are quite a few.
Uh-huh.
Try to throw in some modern. It's kind of like Irish meets jazz
Yeah,
moments.
it's pretty cool. Yeah. Let's listen to some music.
Great.
And then you had mentioned that you have a new record. Do you want to listen to that or do you want to do a video?
Sure. Wherever you'd like to begin, Cathy.
Well, you tell me. Make a suggestion.
Yeah, we could listen. How about listen to Gratitude? That's the first track
Okay.
on our Tuesday's Child here. There's Rob.
This one right here, right?
And that's it. So I wrote that in upper Ojai beginning of 2019. I had taken just a 1 week beginning of the year a writing retreat, and that's before we moved to Ojai. I
Oh,
brought my keyboard up, and I was just overwhelmed by the beauty, the natural beauty, and getting it out of Los Angeles,
yeah.
quiet and peaceful. And I was just overwhelmed with gratitude, and I wrote this piece.
Cool. Okay, great. Oh, beautiful piece.
Thank you, Cathy.
Yeah, and beautiful playing too. Yeah. Um, is the name Tuesday Child, is that from that kind of poem, Tuesday's Child is Full of Grace?
That's a great question. When I first met Rob,
Yeah.
I asked him when his birthday was, what year, and I looked up what day, and I mentioned that we were both born on a Tuesday. My Rob said that recently. We were in Florida visiting my family, and he said that to my dad when he asked, "What's that about?" And I said, "Well, there's only it's a 1 in 7 chance that you guys will be born the same day." Um, but that was one thing we had in common. That's the love of jazz. We play music, and
It is, but it is, that is the poem, right? Tuesday's Child is Full of Grace. I can't remember the whole poem.
there's a poem. It's also the first piece that Rob wrote for me. So after he heard that we
Wow.
both won on Tuesday, he wrote a piece for me and presented it. So that was incredible. And
Oh,
that's
very
also
nice.
on the album, and then we decided to use that
Call
for the
it that,
trailer.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Very nice. Hi, Eddie Resto.
Hey Eddie.
Did we get
Salsa.
back to each other, Eddie Resto, about I wanted to interview him. I don't know if we did or not. Anyway, hi, Nora. And Mary Alice Pierce Coleman, she said it was beautiful.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, that was really lovely. So, so you're doing a lot of teaching. We didn't talk about it on the show yet, but we were talking about it beforehand. Um, can you talk about the teaching a bit?
Teaching. Well, I'm very grateful to have been teaching for so many years, and it's informed me. As an artist, I think it's shaped me and to become a better person.
Yeah.
Being a teacher, and in the beginning, in the beginning,
In the beginning.
in the beginning, I had certain relatives saying, well, of course you're going to be a teacher. And I said, no, 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 I'm going to University of Miami as a studio music and jazz major. And I had a specific great aunt who was like, that didn't fly. Not fly. And I resisted being a teacher, and the garbage trucks are outside, so hopefully that doesn't bleed through.
I didn't hear that.
So I had resisted, but then I need to make some money, and I'm a student, and there's a call that the local music store needs a teacher.
Yeah.
And I remember being very excited. I had learned about the Mixolydian scale, and so I have a little, I don't know if she's 6 or 7-year-old girl, and I'm 17, and I'm showing her how to read and play, and then let me show you the Mixolydian scale. What is that? Over her head. So I was just enthusiastic about sharing what I'm learning, because I always feel like I learn it better and deeper if I pass it along and I teach it, and then I see, do I really understand that concept?
Yeah.
And then hopping over to CalArts, same thing. There would be calls to the jazz department. We need a teacher. So I had 2 wonderful students, my first students in Santa Clarita, Christina and Andrew Doan, which they are now parents. And I think Christina is giving birth to twins soon.
Oh my gosh.
So they each, like Andrew has 3 and Christina's going to have 3. And they love music, and they pass that along to their children. But since then, so my evolution as a teacher, I felt that, let's see, actually it was David Roystein's wife, Rosie, who said, when I graduated CalArts, she said, you should join the Music Teachers Association of California, which I'm a member. So I did, and I would attend the monthly meetings in person and learning about all of the wonderful opportunities in composition, in improvisation, in evaluations, convention, performance opportunities. And I was getting my students involved, and they were doing well, but I felt that there was still something missing. And I was doing something for Alpert Publishing. I was in a focus group when I ran into a Suzuki teacher, and I said, I would love to observe you teaching. Actually, I'm telling the story a little bit wrong. It was that focus group and another focus group for reading keyboard music. I met Maxine Casper. I said, I would love to observe you teaching because you sound like the most positive person I've ever met in my life. Come on down. I observed her teaching Suzuki method. And I said, well, that reminds me a lot of how I learned jazz. Listen, watch, observe, listen to the recordings. You have to listen to recordings? I mean, that makes sense. Rather than, no, don't listen to any recordings. Listen to the recordings. And so I started taking the trainings. Whereas Koppelman, at what they call summer institutes, which are summer camps for Suzuki kids.
Yeah.
The teachers are also trained. Training courses where you learn to teach the method, but you also have to observe the master teachers teaching. Pedagogy.
Yeah, very cool.
And the teachers have to be able to, perform, walk their talk. So I learned, Maxine and I were roommates at conference in Minneapolis, Suzuki convention. And she said, Alyse, this is Alyse. Okay, Maxine, what's up? She's like, oh, they're teaching baby music classes. You would be great at that. Babies, teaching babies music. I can't do that. Oh, you would be great at it. Go take the course. So they were offering the full course at the conference. And I signed up. I missed most of the conference, just studying and learning. Oh, and then I had to go back and learn early childhood development.
Wow.
And ages and stages and a lot. And then I'm not the type of person that can just take one course. So I took all 5 levels, and then I said, well, okay, I might as well be a teacher trainer. So let me go ahead. So same thing. So Suzuki piano, I took all the levels and beyond, and Suzuki early childhood. And then, as I said, I have to practice teaching what I'm just learning. So I had a piano student whose mom went to Montessori school down the block from my place in Santa Clarita. She said, sure, I'd love to have you come and teach the baby class at my Montessori. So that was when I had just finished level 1. I didn't know what I was doing, but I had my notes and gathered my equipment, and I'm singing to the baby toddlers, and there are no parents there, but we're having fun. And then I remember someone had told me, oh, you should teach with the city parks and rec. And I remembered she had said that a long time ago. And I thought, okay, now I have this certificate. Let me sign up. So City Parks and Rec said, sure, we'd love to have you teach a baby class, a music class.
Yeah.
And that was no brainer because right away the parents would sign up. They even had scholarships to the class.
Yeah.
And so I had my weekly class for 10 years.
Oh my gosh.
So I've been teaching piano for about 35 years since college, but baby class was 10 years, also 2008.
Oh.
Just before we moved to Ojai. And it's similar. I don't know, people might know music together, they might know music garden, kinder music. There are different kinds, but the difference is that the parent is in the class and that the teacher, I'm not going to say that the teacher is teaching the parent and saying that it's parent education because that, but it is, but the teacher gives the parents points.
Yeah.
So the latest research about music, in the brain and babies and toddlers and the development, and a lot of support because those new parents need a lot of support. And it's a nurturing environment. A small group of 8 kids, baby toddlers and their moms or dads and grandparents. And we're singing and dancing and we're learning, over 3,000 words, vocabulary.
Yeah.
And it's ages and stages. So the 8-day-old is in the class with, the prenatal, they're there prenatally sometimes, are there with the 3-year-olds or the 4-year-olds, and they're seeing the mastery because now those children can sing all the songs
Hmm.
and they know all the movements and they can lead the class on the wood block or the shakers. And so it's an orchestra and they're achieving mastery at the young age and confidence and balance and listening skills and cooperation and empathy.
Lovely.
And they're being taught by a teacher who is a degreed musician
Yeah.
and can take them into their instrumental study,
Yeah.
guide them that way. So it's a powerful program, which is an international program.
Very interesting. I hadn't actually heard of this particular aspect of it, but it's fantastic. I mean, that's what should happen. Everywhere on the planet,
Everywhere.
right?
That was Dorothy Jones, the creator, Dorothy and Sharon Jones. That was their vision, and Dr. Suzuki's vision, because Dr. Suzuki had asked Dorothy Jones to start this program in the United States with her Montessori and Orff background. So she did create it. And also the other element was inviting musicians. So sometimes I'd have Rob come in and he'd play a little jazz flute or jazz sax and, we'd listen. So also being exposed to other types of music, not just Mozart. Yeah. So
That's cool. Yeah. I never had children, but I have grandchildren, and um, I can give them a few of them voice lessons, but I I've often thought maybe we could create a music night where each one of us can play, you know, one of your favorite songs, and we all listen and we all partake, and that's the only kind of way I can really think of bringing these kids in because they're so busy. It's not like, you know, it takes a lot to plan to take them to see something. And even that is, I'm not sure how effective that is, if they're really into just, for example, pop, bringing them to something Brazilian, I really I don't have faith that it would
oh,
make an impression.
have faith because we never know. It could be just that one thing, or they're watching an instrumentalist do something, or something that's cool.
Yeah.
Opening their ears and eyes. So I'd say number one, start as early as possible because as you say, when they get older, they get very busy.
Yeah.
So starting prenatally, starting in a baby class, whether it be Suzuki Kinder Music, Music Together, Music Garden, any of those early childhood development music classes,
Yeah.
or simply create an area in the house
Yeah.
where music is being played because some parents, it's silent in the house.
Yeah.
So playing music. Um, of course, there are certain types of music, right? Sort of, maybe the heavy metal might be jarring, right?
Right.
Might be quite jarring. But some music and having an area, even if it's pots and pans and ladles and spoons and just things, making a shaker
Yeah.
and some beans and rice and a little canister and all
Yeah.
kinds of ways that we can. Of course, we know that body music do that as well. Yeah, so just creating that environment in the home,
Yeah.
the age, and then take your kids out to see live music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. Rocio said you also encouraged us parents to read about the Suzuki method and assist in the teaching of our kids.
Yeah, thank
So
you.
it's more of a team effort.
Her daughter was such a wonderful student. Well, her mom is as well, wonderful, beautiful human beings. And I believe her daughter even came and assisted me later in the classes.
Oh, wow. Well, you've been doing it so long.
So we need listeners, Cathy. That's the other thing with, you know, keep passing it. Not everyone's maybe going to go out and be a professional musician, but we need educated listeners.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I guess I'm just going to have to get in there and create those times, and
Absolutely.
just hopefully have their their involvement, Yeah, it's kind of interesting, isn't it? Yeah, you sound so involved. So these days, what do I think you said you just, there was some graduation, right? Is that correct? That you experienced, right? Um,
Yeah, it's been a busy. March got really busy.
uh-huh,
We had 3 gigs with the Irish group,
uh-huh,
and we were preparing our album release party at Beatrice Woods
okay,
with that, and then Tekka. We played with Tekka at Santa Monica City College.
nice. Yeah, Tekka and I keep kind of missing each other. We reach out to each other every few years, and then whatever, something, you know. I know she wants to come to LA more to play, but I don't have usually the kind of things that I can offer people a lot of money for. So, that's an issue, when you're coming from a distance and you don't want to just come for nothing. Yeah.
You had asked me about, yeah, so after March, and then I prepared the 2 students for their graduation auditions. That was through
Okay.
Suzuki,
Yeah.
the Suzuki Los Angeles branch. So I prepared them. They had excellent evaluations, and they had the opportunity to go down and perform at that honors concert on Sunday. And
Excellent.
so we're looking at that, and Rob and I are planning another album release concert for our Los Angeles friends and family. So that's
Oh,
going to be
cool.
at the G Spot.
One of my favorite hangs.
But I have not been there yet, so I'm excited.
When is it?
That is going to be May. I believe I'm just looking at the calendar here. I believe it's May 28th. So it is Memorial Day weekend. But if your listeners and our friends are not going out of town and they want something to do, I think it is going to be a great hang and concert.
I'm writing it down.
Very special venue.
It's a great venue. Yeah, if you need help like with preparatory things and kind of stocking the bar and the food and promotion, let me know because I actually do that for that place.
Oh, you do?
I do.
Great. I'm glad I spoke up because we definitely will need it. Thank you, Cathy.
You're welcome. Yeah, I've done that for years. He and I worked together when we were in our 20s. We had he was playing piano at that time, and I was singing, and and then life moved on, and it's a really beautiful spot. You'll love the piano.
I've heard. Thank
Yeah,
you.
the piano's really beautiful, and you'll love him. Oh, so is it going to be? Roland's asking, is it going to be Ahmed and Kevin, or
It's absolutely. Ahmet and Kevin.
Kevin Winard, Roland, and Ahmed? Ahmet gets around so much that we all know Ahmet, and most of us know Kevin Winard too. But
Nice. Very
yeah,
cool.
and
Ahmet,
Rob, Kyle, and Alyse.
so back in was it 2014? I I started my doctorate at USC, and Ahmet was there,
Oh,
undergrad, and I said, Ahmet, you want to just do some jam sessions in the practice room? So this would have been like fall 2014, and we were doing these regular jam sessions, playing duo, and Rob and I had been sharing our original music. So I was bringing in Rob's compositions, and I'm at, we play through them. And then I remember Rob saying, because Rob and I were performing duo,
yeah,
we had like a trio gig, and he said, I need a bass player. My
yeah.
regular guy's not available. And I said, you should check out this guy, Ahmed. He's such a sweetheart, great player. And Rob said, okay, we'll have him come over. We'll audition him. I don't need to audition this guy. So yeah, so we started playing, and we started doing some like Beverly Hills Art Walk, and some gigs like that. And so we're very grateful that we've been playing with Ahmed.
He's pretty special.
Absolutely.
He's a really great player. So he can do so many different things, and he's so melodic and solid and creative. He's really a good player and a hugely nice person. Yeah,
Yes, it's Kevin. Very versatile, and I wanted to say that on this album, so Rob and I used the lockdown time.
yeah,
We survived by working on our music a lot deeper, having a lot of rehearsal time. It's really, we were both so busy before that.
yeah,
Usually we just go through our book
yeah.
and a gig. Um, and we had just moved to Ojai.
Mm.
We had everything in boxes, and we hadn't had time to really unpack. So we used the lockdown to unpack, decide what are we going to get rid of? How are we going to put our home together, get to know each other, do a lot of playing. And then that idea came up. Well, why don't we make an album? So we finally booked time last year to make this album. So we
Yeah.
had plenty of rehearsals. We've gone deeper, creating arrangements, my vocal parts. And then I went home to Florida, and I got COVID on the way back. So our very first session, we did record it at Beagle Studios with Emmett Sargent III, who's an incredible engineer and so easy to work with. Great studio. Yeah, so we had to cancel that very first week of sessions, and then we recorded it month by month,
Uh-huh.
and we just took our time with it, and we just did it duo in the studio, just duo. And then we thought, well, it sounds great, just duo, but why don't we invite some friends? So we sent the tracks to Kevin,
Yeah.
we sent the tracks to Ahmed, and then I thought Ruby's Dream we thought would be nice with some tabla. So I had a friend from CalArts who added tabla, Leona Shinneman, and then one we did with Hussein.
Oh, cool.
That's the Latin track. I'm not sure if that's available on the YouTube, but that's
Well, we can certainly see.
Vivian. I think Vivian's Dance.
Let's see. Well, let me put Tuesday's Child, right? Tuesday.
Right.
So Yeah, there's Ruby's Dream, Tuesday's Child, Distance Between Us, Your Light, Winter, Vivian's Dance.
So Vivian's Dance is a danson. We were in Portland, so that would have been, was that 2 years ago or a year and a half? We went to Portland and we stayed with his sister Vivian. He's very vivacious, loves to dance.
Uh-huh.
And Vivian and I went out for a walk, and Rob stayed in. She's got a piano. She's a singer too. And so he wrote this piece for her, and he'd always wanted to write in the style of a danson.
Uh-huh.
So he did write this. So you'll hear the two different parts, the slower danson, and then the salsa, the second part. If Eddie Resta is watching, he would know this. So I'm going to take a quick comfort break while you play this. I'll be right back.
Okay. Very nice. So I have a bit of a personal question. um, at your concert at the G Spot, are you going to play more? Are you going to solo more? Because listening to you play is really nice, and I find myself wanting to hear you really stretch out.
Yes. Yeah. So there, each piece, there's a spot for me to stretch out and solo, and we did that at the concert in Ojai. So yes,
Oh, cool, cool.
yeah, there will be. Um, and I'm not sure if the listeners, if I said this, the danzón,
Yes.
so that's the official genre or style of music from Cuba,
Okay.
the dance style, which comes from the contra dance.
I don't know what the contra dance is.
So contra dance would be English or French, so more European. So
Oh,
it's probably brought over by the Spanish
oh, I see.
to Cuba, and so that's that official
Yeah.
dance style. So it starts slow, and there's syncopation, and then typically played by a charanga, yeah,
Uh-huh.
charanga. Like, I don't, do you know Faye Roberts?
No, I know that name, but I don't
LA
know.
charanga band. She'd be someone to interview.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah. Let me
so
write
featuring
that
the
down.
flute, the flute.
I'll write that down. Um, um, yeah. I fell in love with the Cuban music that was in the movie Chef. Did you happen to see that?
I did, in fact, some of the guys, at least one of the band, Son Mayor, that's one of the salsa bands in LA that I played with, so is featured at the end of that movie. Do you remember the end of the movie? I think he's playing cowbell in that movie.
Yes, I remember the end of that movie. They're at their wedding or something.
I think it's Alfred Ortiz. Yeah,
Yeah. The music was so good in that movie. Oh my God. And the singer, that main singer, the father figure,
fantastic.
wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Yeah, that I really liked that movie too. Just it was a positive movie, you know. It was real and it was positive, and I really appreciate movies like that, you know.
Me too. Absolutely.
Yeah. Um, let's see. How do you think what's the trajectory of the music um that you're that's in your vision, you know, which includes all these different things that you've been working on that you know about. What do you think? How do you think music is growing and where is it going?
In general, in the world,
Yeah.
or in my microcosm?
Well, I think in general, you know, I mean, I think that there's a social aspect of it planetarily. I mean, obviously, we don't know everything. We're not involved with all kinds of music, but when I speak to people who are involved in various areas, it seems to me that there is a human experience that is being soaked up and um, kind of projected through music wherever it is. Do you feel that way?
I definitely feel that way. Um, it's just a powerful tool for healing. I mean, if we go back to the history of music, right? I, picking up rocks and stones and sticks and making music together, and who knows, what the ancients did, but and using, in shamanism and for healing. And we're coming back to that. I see it's like the internet, how we've become so interconnected and become so aware of each other globally. And then because of the technology, it's easy for people to share their music and to make music videos, make little, snippets and share things, and people in remote areas to learn the music of of others. I remember, I think it was a conversation with Waldo Valenzuela, the Chilean guitarist who played with Alessa. He was saying, that when he grew up, he didn't have access to that. Now the kids, these remote areas, they're watching great musicians from anywhere around the world and, transcribing and copying it. And then we see these videos of these little kids playing like these virtuosos. It's amazing, amazing. So, but back to that question, like I see someone like Jacob Collier,
Yeah.
who has brought the music of Morocco, like Hamid Kasri or Omo Sangare from, Africa, from, the Irish music, the orchestral music. He's bringing all of this together, and the microtonal, which is, there's that movement as well, the microtonal.
Right.
He's experimenting and using the modern technology and putting this all together. I know there's even more in his background, like singing Bach chorales and, bringing that all together with someone like that who has the ability, capability, talent, and then access to the right people to promote him. Someone like that, like I see that as the future of music.
Yeah.
And I would hope that more universities, because I've had this conversation with a particular dear friend and professor in Chicago who's concerned about the future of music as it's being taught in the universities,
Mm-hmm.
at least in the United States.
Yeah.
So, I'm not sure. That's just his, we were discussing that, and I was kind of reflecting on my time at University of Miami, and now there's a new dean, there's new fresh blood. So I'm not sure how things are being taught. CalArts, I felt like that was promoting the future of music.
Yeah.
Including world music and getting back to learning some roots, and then experimental and avant-garde even. And my friend Barak Shmuel is teaching microtonal music online to the global community. So there are a lot of people that are, I believe, trying to move it forward.
Yeah.
And connecting with, younger people. And as I do as a teacher, I'm kind of opening the ears and minds.
Yeah.
Young ones. And so does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Do you have a bucket list?
What sort of a bucket list? A musical bucket list?
Actually, any kind of bucket list.
Okay.
You want to go to Brazil and spend 2 months there? Or I mean, what do you have?
No, that's a good question. So I had the opportunity to go to Brazil with Katina.
Yeah.
And to stay. I love those types of trips where I go to a country, but I'm either traveling with someone from that country, or connecting up with folks from that country, and also study the music. So with Katina, I did that, and a lot of magical opportunities and things happen. Same as Morocco. I know I'm telling a story, I'm going back again. Like Morocco, I had a connection with Mark Levine, one of my mentors, and he was very much into the music of the Gnawa people in Essaouira, and his dream was to go. He wanted to buy a gimbri. We were going to meet him, and he said, "Oh, Alyse, I'm going to be in Paris." I was going to be in Paris, and he said, "Let's go over to Essaouira." So we hopped over there, and I had been listening through Mark sending me CDs to the music. So I said, "Oh, okay. I'm starting to understand the form and the rhythms, and so I met some people there and hung out with the musicians, and got to know their culture a little bit in the small town of Essaouira, the Souk, um, and had an understanding in that kind of and an experience playing with a band, just sitting in. So powerful. Like, yeah, that's, to me, that's how to do it, to have that connection. So I, with things opening up globally again, I would love to have more of those types of experiences where the music that I love, like I like to go back to Ireland as I've been playing Irish music here. And luckily, like through Brad and people like Bruce Carver, do you know who Bruce Carver is?
Don't no.
He's another Bowron player who plays with us. He recorded all the Bowron parts for Outlander,
Oh.
Black Sails. So through these guys and learning about more of the modern groups, I'd like to go to Ireland and study. I know they have, I think in Cork, University of Cork, they have some Irish music program, something like that, immersion. Rob and I, yeah, we're gonna be heading to Scotland soon, and checking out Scotland, the music there. Back at home, though, on the bucket list, so there are two excellent vocalists and songwriters, the Korn brothers, Isaac and Torald Korn.
I don't think I know the name.
And they're brilliant songwriters. And
Uh-huh.
when I moved here, I wanted to hook up with them and do some songwriting. So I had the opportunity to do that at the beginning of this year.
Cool.
Took two pieces that Rob and I had created in our jam session that I had on my, what do you call it, iTunes, the notes,
Yeah.
recorded
Yeah.
on the voice notes. So I brought these to them, and I had an idea, and I worked with them just doing the songwriting, storytelling, songwriting, and putting the lyrics together, because I haven't done that yet. Well, that's not true. I did it, I think, back in University of Miami as a project,
Yeah.
but now on a different level.
Uh-huh.
So these are two very special pieces. So I'm looking forward to recording these, and maybe they'll be on my first album.
That's pretty cool. That's kind of a bucket list, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Um, so are you utilizing your singing in your performance as a lead vocalist?
I have not. I have not. No, because usually when I'm with Rob, the
He's kind of the
instrumentals,
lead. Yeah.
exactly. And then when I'm with Tekka,
Uh-huh.
she's the lead vocalist.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I have not.
Yeah. Okay. That's it. Do you I I kind of hesitate to even ask this question because really, well, I'm not as involved as an instrumentalist as you. It has to do with being a woman in the business and your experiences,
Did I
you
do
know,
better?
gender equality. But I have mixed feelings about things that fall under that category.
Let's
Or
talk about it. It's important.
yeah,
It's important. And I thank my mother. I do thank my mother, because still my mom's era, she's born in the mid 40s. And so she came up in a time, and especially our family, more conservative family, where the women, were expected still to get married and put their career. My mom's dream was to become an artist. She was a hippie. She was a flower, flower, 60s. I was born in 66. And she wanted to go to New York to study art. And her parents said, absolutely not. You can get a business. is they were business. And she did. And then, she met my dad, she had me, and the arts, were put aside, her art. And later, I think about second grade, we made a move from Miami to Miramar. And this involves animals, where we found an injured bird. My mom hooks up with a wildlife care center, and next thing you know, we're volunteering. And the women that worked there were very pro, pro-choice, what do you call it, not wearing bras, and this women's lib, and some of them were lesbians. They're just picketing Burger King, vegans, and it was a shock for the family. My mom was like exploring, and I was exposed to all this. And once I got out there, I'm lucky that still in high school that the men around me, very nurturing in the music. It's been that big band that I played with. And then I jumped over to University of Miami, hopped back down to Miami, and yeah, not so much. I had some. I was one of those women that had issues with the professor, and I know there were others, and I know that eventually he was asked to leave. This was a tenured professor.
Yeah. Well.
And I had to go to the dean, who was luckily a female tuba player.
Oh.
So, and I said, yeah, this is not working out. And I, being to go to school at a private university, I need to study with someone else. And I'm so grateful that Ron Miller, Gary Lindsay, they took me under their, especially Ron.
Yeah.
He's very nurturing, very, yeah. And then just being out on gigs, yeah, I think it was kind of also, like, as I said, that like family members who were more conservative saying, you should be a teacher because women in jazz, you're out late at night and they're men and you're on stage with men and things happen, and a lot they're not very supportive. My mom was, luckily.
Yeah.
My dad. And my parents, as many that time, and they're having difficulties, and there was a divorce, so it was a difficult time. My mom was always supportive, but she was busy. My dad was distracted. And then coming up to CalArts, still again nurturing. Yet when I was out there playing in different bands, and especially as a female, like I was much blonde, white, chick playing piano, it, there were, I didn't always feel comfortable.
Yeah.
Sometimes I felt threatened. Remarks were made. I remember,
Like that was more where your head was at. Like if you were a little different, then you might
oh,
not have been affected like that.
no, because I always felt, coming up in the jazz world, I always felt like these guys were my brothers.
Yeah.
For the most part, I felt like they protected me like that.
Yeah.
There would be one or two, or a band leader or two. Like I remember a big band gig in Van Nuys when the band leader, older guy, came up and just put his arms around me, like to play the piano parts, and I just felt so violated, and I just, shoved myself off the piano, and I just said, "Sorry, guys, I'm out of here." And that was it. That was the last time I played with that big band. So I'm not having it.
um, do you think that in besides these kind of things, like let's say theoretically, there's a band, it has great musicians, they're not being affected, in a personal way like that. Do you think that being a female is makes it more difficult in business in general?
In general, I feel that women have to sometimes, what is the word? They have to be more commanding
Mm,
and more confident and over like Susie Hansen. I worked with her over the years, subbing with her band,
she's very confident always.
extremely and
Yeah,
extremely together and organized. And she's a role model for me. I love Susie.
yeah,
And I feel that women are can be forced into those position type of um, even I haven't spent much time in the corporate workplace, but I can only imagine where the women have to be bulldogs, right, to get things done, to command respect. And unfortunately, I feel that that also cuts us off like from our heart, because I feel as a woman, I'm wanting to be kind and compassionate to and sometimes I feel like that we're held back because it can be misconstrued, right? Even my feeling of like, oh, you're like a brother to me can be misunderstood, and like that means I want something else to happen. No,
yeah.
right? I feel like I'm even now. I know we're online, Facebook. Like I feel like I'm restraining myself a bit. Um,
Yeah, which is fine. I mean, because I think there's different layers anyway, you know, and yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that touch on this idea, you know, that, know, has other arms out there, race, and, I mean, just lots of different
Lots of different.
areas. Yeah,
I recently saw Maria Schneider, who's
yeah,
one of my favorites,
yeah,
composers,
definitely.
contemporary composers, and to see, this lovely woman, incredibly just brilliant, leading an orchestra of all men. It's-
Yeah. Another person like that early on was Toshiko Akiyoshi. I mean, I used to see her. I was a waitress at Dante's, and that band used to play. She was, and she was all the band was really into her because she was, she was female, but her writing was so great. It wasn't anything lightweight. It was challenging, and all the players were on their A game. And that was pretty inspiring to see.
Absolutely. I did get to see her live once. I think it was on Vine, and I remember her getting upset and stopping and telling the crowd if they don't, be quiet or shut up. They're going to stop the performance.
You mean to the audience?
Yes, to the
Oh,
audience, because they're eating and talking, and she's like,
oh,
"I'm not having this. We're leaving. We're gonna stop, and if you don't stop, we're done for the night."
yeah, man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love back to Maria how she gives space, honoring each individual
Hmm.
performer and giving them the spotlight, their improvisation. And so I can only imagine if, we interviewed all the women in music and jazz, what stories they could tell.
Yeah, yeah. Rocio said, we need men allies everywhere to point out when others are treating women in a demeaning manner. Yeah, I agree with that. Yep. Yeah. Um, let's see. Um, in your long career, has there been a different instrument than what you play? Um, a, an artist who plays a different instrument who um, excited you or changed the way you thought or really intrigued you?
Yes, many. Um, like I had talked about playing violin for a while, and I remember listening to like John Ponty or some of the great violinists, jazz, fusion, and I had been playing clarinet through middle and high school, and Eddie Daniels, I remember came to University of Miami, and just my jaw dropped. Heard him playing and improvising, and that was so inspiring. I was very into guitar.
Hmm.
Had studied a bit, and then decided I didn't like how the frets felt on my fingers. Um, but even hearing like Al Di Meola play, uh, I'm sorry, the Paco de Lucia, and hearing some great guitar players when I was really into fusion in my high school years. I don't know, when I was younger, hearing Louis Armstrong sing and play trumpet and how inspiring that was. Um, hearing, yeah, a lot of different. I love melodic, anything that has a beautiful melodic, any beautiful melodic players. So whether it be voice or saxophone or violin or
Yeah. Um, I was listening to some Mosier Santos the other day. He was very melodic.
absolutely.
Yeah. His compositions were really beautiful. And pianists, I mean, actually, Joey Calderazzo is one of my favorite pianists to listen to. He's
Yeah,
very melodic, also, right?
I agree. I agree. Monty Alexander. I
Ah,
mean, I know we're talking about piano again, but there was a period in time, again back to University of Miami days. I was pretty depressed about that situation that was going on,
yeah.
and we used to have listening sessions when I was in the dorm in ninth grade. Not ninth grade. As a freshman, as a freshman
Oh,
in at University of Miami, and we'd have these listening sessions in the dorms. And someone brought in Ernestine Anderson.
uh-huh.
I listened to this piano player on this Ernestine at Never Make Your Move Too Soon. And I heard Monty for the first time. And right away, I'm like, bing, bing, bing. Wow. Like, I just felt joy in my heart. I felt so happy. And he was doing a gig nearby. So I went to see him play. And again, the whole show, I felt uplifted and joyful and inspired again,
Yeah,
inspired again.
yeah,
And he also took the time to speak to me after that show.
yeah,
And I just told him a little bit what's going on. And he said, you know what? You have to keep playing. It's your passion. And that's you do it because you love it. And it doesn't matter what professors or anyone around you, what they say or what they try to do. You keep playing. Remember why you love this, to do this. And I'm so grateful. I got to see him. Rob took us just to see him in Santa Monica,
uh-huh.
signing some CDs. And I'm, Monty, you're not going to remember this. Probably not. Back in the day, in the 80s, when you told me that, and I'm still playing. So thank you.
Yeah, he is very nice to listen to. I've heard him several times. Um, yeah. Let's listen again to something because we're getting close to the end. And I'm liking your record a lot. You
Thank you.
mentioned another one. I forget what you said. You mentioned one from the record. Do you remember besides Vivian's Danson?
Well, I've got two other pieces. If you, I've got Distance Between Us. That's a waltz. I had written that after moving to LA,
Uh-huh.
to Santa Clarita, and moving away from my family, 3,000 miles away for the first time. Yeah, they're always in my heart.
It's up to you. Do you want me to play that?
Sure, play Distance Between Us.
Okay. Whoops, sorry. Oh, very pretty. Beautiful.
Thank you, Cathy.
Oh.
I tell Rob it reminds me of the end of The Dream of the Blue Turtles. Staying.
Uh, oops, Roland said Alyse can now go to Disneyland. I've I've just bought Tuesday's Child from iTunes. It's so mellifluous.
Thank you. We can go together. I had a dream the other day that my girlfriend's like, okay, we're getting ready to go to Disney. And I got excited.
um, let's see. Um, how curious how often do you find yourself writing? Do you kind of force the issue, or do you just kind of let it pop up when it wants to?
Good question. Great question. Not often enough. I find that, yes, life is very busy again now that things have opened up. But
Yes.
one of my favorite ways to compose is just to start with some just free play.
Yeah.
Just kind of sit down, do a little drone, and just just kind of see what's taking me somewhere. Is it a harmony? Is it a melody coming in? I mean, sometimes it's just kind of spontaneous. I'm on the road and I hear some melody and I just turn my voice notes on and sing. Or I'm out for a walk in nature and walking the dog and I hear something. And so I just put that down. So I keep a lot of those little seeds in
Yeah.
my voice notes.
Yeah.
I go back and expand like those two that I brought to the Korn brothers.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And then, yeah, I seem to, so my melodies, I seem to want to be able to sing, when I'm writing. I know on distance, actually it's Winter, the other composition on that, where there's some really wide leaps, and I definitely wouldn't sing that, be able to sing those wide leaps. Um, but I like writing for soprano. I feel like it's similar to my voice when I'm singing that range. Um,
I'm just curious, do you utilize at all in arranging, having the bass and the horn and the piano play a line together?
I love that.
I do too. I don't really have arrangements that do that, but it happens on the spot. But I love when it happens. It's beautiful.
I love certain is beautiful. And I
Yeah.
love certain combinations. Yeah, but like bass. Ahmed and I are going to be doing some of that
Hmm.
concert where we're playing, yeah,
Yeah.
bass and piano lines together. And I like certain combinations of like I do love like a strat and a tenor in a certain way range. I love like flugel and yeah, certain combinations.
Yeah.
Sounds so beautiful to my ears. Um, One thing I think you had asked me that I didn't answer, like this writing style. So Ron Miller was my composition teacher at University of Miami.
Hmm.
He influenced a lot of great artists, a lot of great composers, um, like Mark Egan, Pat Metheny. I know Ron says he didn't teach them anything, but Ron's uh, his theory, his composition theory, they're available in a couple of books
Uh-huh.
used in around universities, colleges around the world.
Oh.
And Ron spent a lot of time with us, again, listening, like opening up our ears. So we were listening to Wayne Shorter. I think that's another reason why I love writing for soprano, because I love Wayne Shorter.
Yeah.
Joe Henderson, we were listening to Mingus, Charles Mingus,
Uh-huh.
Funk, a lot of ECM.
Hmm.
And then shortly after CalArts, I had scholarship 2 summers in a row to attend Banff Center for the Arts in Canada.
Oh, cool.
And there was Kenny Wheeler.
Oh,
Um, so we were studying his music, we were
yeah.
looking at his scores, and Ingrid Jensen, the great jazz trumpet player, she was a student as well.
Hmm.
But so we were playing in Kenny's big band, and Norma Winston was there.
Oh, cool.
And so there's that idea, like the vocalese. And that was around that time, like actually in the early 80s, I was listening to Pat Metheny, and Pat Metheny was on tour like mid 80s, so forth. So I like saw First Circle and seeing him incorporate the Brazilian artists who were singing the vocalese, right? And so that was a big influence,
Pedro Azanar.
right?
I was in a summer camp with him. Yeah.
So incredible, beautiful. So that was in my early writing days. These were my influences.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful. Yeah. I was also deeply affected by ECM. I had grown up in a very kind of standard jazz family. My sisters, my two older sisters sang and one played piano. So we grew up playing and singing together. My dad was a sax player with big bands. My mom had been a singer. So, we were very much doing music. But then when I got into school at Berkeley, because I was playing flute at the time, and yeah, ECM, well, that was a very rich time in Boston for music. We were coming out of Woodstock. Motown was smoking. Um, the jazz was kind of like attracting, like blood, sweat, and tears, kind of this mixture of modern possibilities. Then ECM, Weather Report, Bob Moses. I mean, and ECM was pretty astounding at that time. And yeah, in fact, I wrote lyrics to a Metheny song and an Abercrombie song too that I've recorded. And actually, Pat loves my lyrics so much to his song. It was called In Her Family. Do you know that song?
No, I'm gonna look that up. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really beautiful song. Old song, from the whatever, the 70s or something. And so I actually was allowed to have publishing with that from him.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So there's another one of his songs that I just recorded with my nonette that a guy wrote the perfect lyrics to. If I could, do you know that? Da 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 ba da 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 da. It's beautiful lyrics for that one too. Um, but yeah, but ECM, I think ECM was so huge, such a huge effect on us, on us in the music. It was shocking, it was space, it was beauty, it was a little bit of classical, it was so many things, really beautiful time period. Kenny Wheeler, actually Norma and I recorded together on a record that I made in the UK, and we recorded the John Abercrombie song because, well, I wanted her to do it, but interestingly enough, when I asked her about this song, it's called Hippolytville, and she had been on the road, and in the situation where they were performing, they were literally across the hall from Abercrombie, and he played that song every night. So she grew to love that song. So when I asked her to sing that song, she was like, "Yeah, yeah, definitely." And that was really fun. We had a really good time doing that. I'll send you that. But yeah, I can't say enough about how wonderful ECM just changed everything so beautifully, And Weather Report. That was the first time I understood that you didn't have to play the same comping as an instrument.
Right.
You could stretch as long as you were all connected to the time.
Yes. I just
That just blew my mind.
I had the pleasure of connecting with Joe just like towards the end of his life, just to happened to meet someone who was a caretaker, and
Joe who?
Zawinul
Oh, yeah.
invited me to Catalina's to see the band, and green room, hanging with Joe, and back at his place and listening to some tracks in the studio. It was kind of like, where did the universe created that opening? That was crazy. Just
That's
incredible.
great.
Hearing stories he was talking about growing up in Austria and Bird, and like I'm sitting right next to him, he's telling these stories. It was just incredible. Like,
That's
I
amazing.
had a recorder on.
I might have been at that Catalina's, the old Catalina's, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I remember being at a Weather Report concert there. It was incredible, just incredible. And that guy who sang, Pedro Aznar, who sang with Pat, I did I taught at a summer camp in Argentina, and that week Pedro was there too. It's like, oh my God, that voice, you know, just really amazing. And so was Hermeto. He was at the camp too,
Oh,
teaching. That was mind blowing too. Wow, being that close and you know, like getting his juju, you know.
genius juju. Yes.
Man, yeah. Rocio is asking, do you think that you and Rob will add lyrics to some songs in your CDs?
Yeah. So, Rocio, I had mentioned that recently I got together with the Korn brothers.
Uh-huh.
We added lyrics. So, I created lyrics with their assistance for two new pieces that Rob and I wrote together.
Oh,
And so those will be on the next album, whether it be my album, of course, Rob will be playing
yeah.
and helping to produce, or our next duo album. Not sure, but the answer would be yes, Rocio, yes.
All right, so it's coming to the end, and so I do want to tell people in LA that they will be at the G Spot, the world famous G Spot, um, on May 28th, and I hope I'm going to be there because that's my birthday, and so I had scheduled a birthday hang during the daytime, but one of my dear friends cannot make it, and so I'm trying to move it like the day before. So if I can do that, I'm going to join in with you and help you if I can and all that.
Thank you so much, Cathy.
Yeah. Well, it's been really lovely speaking with you. You are so rich in your career and your knowledge. It's quite lovely to hear. Really nice.
Thank you, Cathy. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so
Thanks.
much for having me on your show, and been just delightful.
Mhm.
If anyone is interested, they could go to armusic.org for the album,
I'll write that down. ar.org.
music.org. And my website is AlyseKornmusic.com.
AlyseKornmusic.com.
And I post shows coming up. Um, Also, that May event is on Eventbrite. So there's an Eventbrite
Yeah.
circulating somewhere on Facebook. There's a Facebook event and the Eventbrite. We'd love to have you join us. We're going to be in LA that weekend.
Okay. I'll put that down too.
And I want to thank all of my friends who showed up today, your friends, and any new friends.
Okay. Well, thanks, Alyse. Have a great trip and to Scotland, and please give my best to Robert.
Will.
Um, he's such a nice person. I remember when Stefan Oberhoff told me the story of how they met. I was like, "Oh my God, that's funny. That's great."
I don't know that story.
Oh, they met at a coffee shop near where Stefan lives or lived at the time, and they just met and they started talking, and became in love with each other, and got together and played, and just yeah. I mean, they were
That's,
kind of born to meet, musically, right?
that's another one of those magical universe
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
thing
yeah,
happened.
yeah.
Wow, very special.
So have a great time.
Thank you, Kathy. You be well, and
Thank
again, thanks so much.
Thank you. And anybody in LA, tomorrow I'm going to, well, first of all, I'm going to speak with Will Salmon, who is an actor and he's a producer of a place called the Open Gate Theater. Um, and I'm trying to think of his cohort in crime is Alex Klein. Do you know that name?
I do.
So Alex Klein and his brother, I can't remember his first name, my brain.
Niels, right?
Yes, yes, yes. So they're quite adept musicians and they're also adventurous. Maybe you knew them from CalArts or something.
No, through Jennifer York.
Oh, okay. So Will and Alex have had the Open Gate Theater for 25 years. They'd have every first Sunday uh, performances with a little more avant-garde type of music.
Yeah.
So I'm really looking forward to speaking with him. He's a really interesting guy. And then Wednesday, there's a really excellent percussionist composer, Nathan Hubbard, who I'm going to speak with. And if you're in LA, at Kulak's Woodshed in North Hollywood, I am going to be singing on Thursday, the 27th, with Dave Moscow on piano. And why that's interesting for anybody, besides just, they're my fan, is because Dave and I have been working together for probably 35 years. And we're going to, we'll be doing the Great American Songbook. And there's something that's really unique about two seasoned people, a singer and a pianist, who have a relationship together and can deliver very uniquely, these standards, and also because it's a duo and the trust issue can change on a dime. So anybody who is interested in that kind of thing, I mean, I would suggest coming because Dave and I have really we do that and we've done that for years. So it's really nice, and Kulak's is a very comfortable place that I've been stirring up more jazz for, and it's inexpensive to come. There's no food and alcohol that's, demanded to buy, and it's in a good location in North Hollywood.
And
On
it
the
is, it's also a magical play. It feels like someone's living room and it's whimsical and magical. There's nothing like it in LA. So, wow, what a great combination of, oh,
It's so
definitely.
true. It's so true. The other art of the duo this week too is Todd Hunter, who you probably know, right? The
Yeah,
pianist.
he's a neighbor.
Oh, cool. Todd Hunter is a neighbor.
You're the tenor player, you mean?
No, the pianist.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I didn't know there was a Todd Hunter horn player. Todd Hunter is a really beautiful pianist who is kind of, to me, akin to Bill Evans.
Hmm.
Really beautiful player, and he loves Brazilian. He's played with Dionne Warwick for years, and they've gone to Brazil a lot together, and he's developed a real love for Brazilian music. And he's playing with Antonia Bennett, who is Tony Bennett's daughter, who has had a long career of singing as well. She's always opened for her dad, and so they're going to do the Art of the Duo on Saturday
Really?
at Kulak's. So you have kind of a cool week here. So I hope people will come. And that's all there is to it.
Wonderful. Well, I'm so grateful. I'm seeing again the sign behind you, gratitude. And to everyone, be brave. I'm reading Elizabeth Gilbert's Big Magic about
That's
fear,
a great book.
right? And fear can be in the car with you, but it's not allowed to drive. So that's normal. So everyone, those be creative and put the fear there. Just do it.
Just
Just
do it. And read that book. It's a good book. It's a great book.
all right, Kathy.
Okay, Alyse. Bye bye. Have a good day.
You too.
Thank you.